Hello, everyone. My name is Mike Milner. This is really echoey volume here. I hope I don't sound too intimidating. I am the Vice President of Product Management at Trend Micro, and I spend a lot of my time talking with customers to understand their needs. And today we're going to talk about healthcare. And it's interesting, healthcare records are one of the hottest targets for the criminal underground. 239% increase in hacked healthcare records over the past 5 years. 278% increase in ransomware attacks against healthcare organizations. 133 million healthcare records exposed last year alone. That's healthcare records of people, individuals, you, me, families. And one of the largest breaches occurred last year. 11.2 million healthcare records lost in one breach. So it's a major problem. And I'm not an expert in healthcare security, but as we go through the session here today, we have the privilege of being joined by Zach Evans, CTO at Xsolis. Zach, thanks so much for joining us.
Great to be here, Mike. Just really appreciate the opportunity. Yeah.
Zach, why don't you kick us off by telling us a little bit about Xsolis?
Absolutely. So Xsolis is an AI healthcare company. We were founded in Nashville, Tennessee in 2013. We have been doing artificial intelligence. All right.
Echoey sound.
And we're back. We've been doing artificial intelligence before artificial intelligence was even cool to talk about. And so Xsolis was really formed because we saw a need in the U.S. healthcare market. There's a tremendous amount of silos that exist within the U.S. healthcare market. And if you notice our name is actually silos spelled backwards with X in front of it. Because our job is to break down silos in healthcare. And we do that by applying human-centered artificial intelligence to clinical and financial workflows to help reduce waste. So in the U.S. healthcare market annually, we spend about $4 trillion on healthcare in the U.S. every year. By some estimates, 25% of that, or $1 trillion, is spent on administrative tasks. Not even clinical care, administrative tasks. And about 25% of that, or about $240 billion, is estimated to be waste in the system. That if we were just better at what we did, more efficient at what we did, we could take that cost out of the U.S. healthcare system. And so that's what we do. We use real-time predictive analytics to provide transparency, to drive workflows, and to really focus on that relationship that exists between payers, in our case, primarily hospital systems, and providers or insurance companies, both of which play an important role in the experience of the patient, but sometimes are at odds at how they have to achieve that goal. And so we try to bring sanity to that relationship to really reduce friction to address that $200 and some odd billion problem in healthcare. So as a CTO, right, one of the things that we like to do is we like to bring technology solutions to problems, right? And so I have the privilege of leading a really talented and experienced healthcare technology team. But as part of the journey that we're going to be going on here over the next couple minutes, we really had to kind of create a philosophy for how we wanted to attack problems. And so, what do they say? Really smart people create, but geniuses kind of steal, right? So several of these ideas we actually borrowed from some of the work that AWS itself has done. And I really have challenged my team over the last several years to really think about how we can solve these complex problems through the use of technology by empowering our clients through SaaS models delivered through AWS in the cloud. So we really favor cloud-first, cloud-native solutions. We build highly scalable solutions because we'll talk about some of the scale of the data that we deal with here in a couple minutes. We also really invest heavily in kind of our API infrastructure, the way our services can talk to one another, and we invest heavily in traceability because we have to be very, very careful because we are safeguarding our clients' data. And so we have to be very, very careful how we handle that data and how we can ensure that we have high levels of observability and traceability in everything that we do.
It's interesting, we heard the statistics at the start of the presentation. It's a challenging environment to work in. If you look at the risks that a healthcare company has to deal with, it's all the same risks that any company has to deal with. You've got ransomware threats. You've got, all those threats.
Yeah. See, we're off our game here.
Regulated environments like healthcare have a huge amount of requirements that they need to meet. You've got supply chain vulnerabilities, all those issues that any security company has, and then layered on top of that, you've got additional issues specific to healthcare. You've got patient data, HIPAA requirements. Depending on where you're working, healthcare companies sometimes have legacy devices. You might have an MRI machine that has to be running this ancient version of the operating system because it can't be updated. You might have to deal with fax machines. It's a challenging environment to deal with these threats. How have you evolved that over time? How have you evolved your organization to handle those?
Mike, it has been a journey. When I joined Xsolis almost 7 years ago, we had a SaaS platform. We've been cloud native from the beginning, but we were growing rapidly, and we implemented more clients in the year that I joined Xsolis than we had done in the previous 5 years combined. And so we knew that we needed a technology platform that would allow us to scale, to not only handle all of this data that we were taking in, but to handle it in a really secure manner. And so we've been on a journey for the last couple years. Even though we were cloud native from the beginning, we embarked on a digital transformation project. We rewrote 100% of our application code. We changed tech stacks. We really invested heavily in those cloud native and managed services that we talked about earlier. But one of the best things about our partnership with Trend is that as we were going on this journey, our relationship with Trend grew along the way as well. So from a security perspective, we started our relationship with Trend with one very small project. We were doing a cloud conformity project. We wanted to get our arms around our cloud environment and make sure that we had some, just a really firm foundation to build on. And that's where we started. But over the last 3 or 4 years, we've just continued to grow as our security needs have changed, as we've gotten smarter about how we want to do business, and we've really tried to consolidate vendors to approach that goal of having a single pane of glass. We just continued to invest in the partnership and bring on even more solutions. So we brought on workload security. We brought on ASRM. We've now launched container security, and we've got some other things that are coming in 2025. And in the middle of that, we launched our brand new platform, which we named Dragonfly. And we're in the midst of a migration project right now, so we are officially beyond the 50% mark. So a lot of digital transformation projects never make it off the ground. But we've been migrating clients. Actually, 2 days ago, we had 26 additional hospitals migrate in one day. So that was a great day. It was a very early morning for some of my team being here on Las Vegas time, but they did a great job. And so this journey and not only the journey of our digital transformation, but our journey with Trend just continues to evolve to meet these highly complex, ever-changing needs, both of our clients, but again, primarily about how we secure that data. Because we typically get asked 2 questions very early on in an implementation. I'm sorry, you want how much of our data? Very quickly followed by, and how are you going to secure that? And so we have to be able to have very honest and transparent conversations with our clients to ensure that they're comfortable with what we are wanting to do. Because, as I mentioned earlier, what we are at our core is we're an AI company. And the lifeblood of artificial intelligence is data. And so if we don't have ready access to that data, we're not able to do what we need to be able to do. So since 2013, we've been using predictive AI and machine learning models to provide real-time insights to our clients. Now, that real-time word will we'll come back in our discussion here in a couple minutes, when you think about the volume of data and the rapid pace at which we have to be able to consume that data. And so we want to be able to surface clinically relevant and financial information rapidly for our clients to be able to drive workflows to improve the way that they operate. And so we create a real-time patient profile. We create these predictive alerts. We provide or create triggering events that can drive those workflows. And they come out in a couple different ways. So one of the things that we have is we've created what's called our care level score, or our CLS score, which is really a measure of a patient's acuity, how sick they are. Now, if you don't work in a clinical environment, you may say, well, I don't understand. Why is that so hard? You're in the hospital. You must be really sick. Well, in the hospital, there's all sorts of ranges of illness that you have to deal with. And there's a tremendous amount of information that's flowing at these clinicians every day, every minute of every day. And so our CLS score really helps provide a rapid snapshot of how sick that patient is. And really what that helps empower is this concept of utilization review, which we won't go into that too deeply, but that is the key construct that governs that relationship between the payer and that provider, okay? And that payer collaboration is really what allows us to break down those silos. Because for one of the first times, we are using objective, predictive data to allow payers and providers to have a parallel conversation and a parallel understanding of the picture of the patient. It's not open for necessarily clinical interpretation, although the human is always in the loop, but it provides that objective relative score of how sick that patient is. And then one of our most exciting places we've been diving into for the last year is around length of stay management, or LOS management. So it may surprise some of you that when you're sick and you go to the hospital, it's absolutely right that you go to the hospital. But the most dangerous place to be when you are sick is in a hospital. That's where hospital-acquired conditions and hospital-acquired infections can come into play. Hospitals are, at their core, challenging environments to exist in. And so length of stay management really tries to get the patient out of the hospital as soon as is clinically appropriate. But that's really hard to really try to pinpoint that early in the stay. So some of our predictive analytics, like our what we call our P24, or the likelihood of discharging within 24 hours, or our predictions that say we think this is how long a patient will stay in a hospital within 12 hours of presenting at the hospital, really allows that hospital to manage their beds that much more efficiently, really address some of the staffing shortages, and manage the risk of the patients.
Yeah, I love actually, all the technology we're talking about here, but being applied to real human outcomes. Yes. And I know you've been doing AI since, 2013, you said? Now we're here at reInvent and everyone's talking about AI. What about generative AI?
Yeah, so this little thing happened a couple years ago, right? ChatGPT came onto the scene, and all of a sudden everyone said, hey, we need to be an AI company. We kind of looked around and said, well, welcome to the party. Where have you been? But we had to have been investing, wanting to move beyond predictive AI into the generative AI space. And so we've got some really exciting things that we're working on right now in that space to provide even more efficient workflows for our clinicians. So one of the things that we will launch before the end of the year, so we've got a couple weeks left, but one of the things, exactly, the time is ticking, right? One of the things that we will launch before the end of the year is our first generative AI module within Dragonfly. And really what that is focused on, so when you are admitted into a hospital, usually within the first 24 hours of admission, a nurse, what's called a utilization review nurse, will review your case and will provide a clinical summary to the insurance company. And sometimes that's the first indication to the insurance company that patient is in the hospital, like if it was some type of an emergent situation or something like that. And so it's a notification that they're there. It provides a clinical summary. It provides that first glimpse of what we think the diagnosis is and maybe how long the patient needs to be in the hospital. And that initial review has to be done on every patient that's admitted to the hospital. Well, as many of you know, in healthcare today, they don't have enough staff to begin with. And so when you have a short-staffed unit that is supposed to touch every patient within 24 hours of admission, anything that we can do to make that process more efficient is going to be hugely beneficial. So by allowing that initial review to be automatically generated, and then be reviewed by the utilization review nurse for any, to append any information or to edit any information or anything like that, we can provide and offer a much more streamlined workflow. And so that module will launch before the end of the year. Right after that, we're going to turn our heads to a different problem that we have, okay? And that's the problem of claims denials. And for any of you that work in healthcare, you know that a lot of healthcare claims get initially denied by the insurance company. And so when an insurance claim is denied, what happens is there's an adjudication process that is kicked off. There is an appeals process that is enabled within that payer contract with the hospital. But it's kicked off by this letter that gets submitted to the insurance company that's called a denials appeals letter. And that is a highly clinical, but also in some respects a highly technical document that takes a very specially trained and experienced resource to be able to craft. Because they have to be able to pull out all of the relevant clinical information to put into that appeals letter to kick off the adjudication process. It's very, very time consuming. And so the module that we're going to launch in the first quarter of next year is a denials and appeals letter module. That will generate the first draft of that appeals letter for that appeals nurse to be able to review and then submit that on to the payer. We believe it will provide a tremendous efficiency gain, and because the LLM will actually be self-reinforced and learned what appeals letters result in overturned claims, because of the quality of the clinical argument that's being made, it will get smarter over time, even as it reacts to the different policies of different insurance companies, right? So we'll move beyond that into some other specialized workflows in the second half of the year. There's this construct of what's called a physician advisor or a PA workflow, where we feel like there are physicians out there that review cases for medical necessity and for insurance verification. It's the most expensive resource in a hospital that you can have doing what amounts to administrative work. And so our ability to generate those second level reviews or that peer-to-peer review support, and therefore free up some of that very expensive time for physicians, can be hugely beneficial to our clients. And so all of this is being built right now. One of the most fun things, listening to all of the sessions this week, is all of this is built on top of AWS Bedrock. So we're really excited to be launching that. Again, the first module will launch before the end of this year, and then we'll be rolling right into next year as well.
It's amazing. What does that look like on Bedrock?
So what we're using, and this is just one example, right? So this is that clinical review summary. And so without giving away too much of the secret sauce, right? So we are using RAG to pull out the pertinent information out of the clinical documents, the most relevant information out of the clinical documents. Now, sometimes that's discrete data, right? That's a lab result, that's a medication, that's a diagnosis code or something like that. But oftentimes that data is coming from unstructured data. So it's coming from a post-operative report, or from a physician's note, or from a pathology report, or something like that. And so RAG allows us, after we OCR those documents, RAG allows us to pull out the most relevant information to start answering questions about the case, which then feeds into a summary prompt that then generates that automated clinical summary. And so it's been really interesting. Our data science team has done a tremendous amount of experimentation in this space. And Bedrock has really helped us be able to experiment much, much faster, in that depending on the insurance company that we're working with, depending on even the
the clinical summary that we are seeing, we're able to use different LLMs that we get better results from. And so as part of that question and answer kind of construct that gets generated by RAG that then generates that summary prompt, we've built in automation that allows us to pick what will be the best case scenario LLM to use. So it's not just one LLM, it's not just one version of an LLM. And we are constantly testing and reevaluating that to tweak that kind of selection process to really generate that best case clinical summary.
It's amazing, and I have to say, a trend we love partnering with our customers, and I think, we think about the raw technology, and it's very, very cool, but seeing those real outcomes and seeing how you've leveraged that technology to move faster, to deliver this value to your customers, and ultimately to people is just amazing. We love that type of partnership. Now, as we think about all that you've done so far and all that you've moved and all that your journey there that you described, where is that going now? How is that scaling? How is that growing?
So as a company, as I mentioned, we've been growing really rapidly for the last several years. And so I mentioned earlier kind of that real-time data construct, right? And so we have built our system really to be able to respond to very small data sets. And so as much as I love FHIR as a standard, we still leverage traditional HL7 messages because we're able to bring in that data one message at a time. So as soon as a lab result is posted to the EMR, we usually have it within a matter of seconds to minutes. Well, as soon as that post-op report is filed into the EMR, we're able to receive that document feed near real time, send it through our OCR services, hand it off to our machine learning models to be able to drive predictions at times within a matter of minutes of that document even being available. So right now, today, we're processing about 3.2 billion HL7 messages every year. It's about 9 million messages a day.
Wow.
Now, and one message may have multiple data points in it, but it's a tremendous amount of data that we are having to bring into our system and process near real time every day. And it's also a tremendous amount of data to protect every day.
Right.
Because it amounts to one message at a time, the entire medical record. We receive, store, process, analyze, predict on, and then present back to the end user. So I mentioned all those documents. We are a very large TextRact user, AWS TextRact user. We are OCRing about 60 million documents a year. For those of you that don't know, TextRact has limits on the number of documents they'll OCR on any given day. We have consistently had to go back to AWS to have those limits lifted, and they're more than happy to do that for us. But we OCR and bring in a tremendous amount of unstructured data every day. And that the OCR data only actually represents a relatively small portion of that data, of the unstructured data. Because we also bring in a tremendous amount of flat text files or rich text files or those sorts of things that don't necessarily have to go through an OCR process to be able to bring in that unstructured data into our systems. And then all of that data, because we're trying to separate the wheat from the chaff, right? So not every data element necessitates a prediction to be made. So we are able to abstract the most relevant clinical data points to be able to provide a prediction back to our clients. And so today, to this point in time, we've provided about 2.7 billion predictions back to our clients, each of which has the ability to drive a workflow that can end up impacting the patient's care journey. Yeah. So the way that we've done that is in our new platform, Dragonfly. I mentioned earlier, we've really invested heavily in a lot of AWS native and managed services. And we won't talk about all of these, but I'll point out a couple that have been hugely valuable to us. Because of that velocity of data and that velocity of our data being intaked, has only continued to grow, we needed to be able to build a really robust data platform. And so we're a very big Amazon managed Kafka or MSK client. That's what we use to power our data platform. And as we started bringing our first clients live on that, so in our legacy platform, we had a very kind of traditional ETL process, leveraging SQL Server to be able to stage data, to be able to process data, to move it into what we called a scrubbed state. We did some time studies on data velocity. And so on average, in our legacy platform, to receive an HL7 message to the point where we could present that data to our client, on average, it would take somewhere around 7 or 8 minutes to process that data all the way through the system, which in internet time that's an eternity, right? So because we're still running our two systems in parallel, we were able to look at those same message sets that on average were taking that 7 to 8 minutes to be able to process that data, because as soon as the data is processed, that's what allows us to make the prediction. Those same messages now process in less than 2 seconds.
Oh, wow.
So it was a 99% increase in speed, in our data processing speed at scale to be able to drive these predictions for our clients. We're also a big Aurora RDS customer. So that's where we store all of our structured data. We use DynamoDB for documents. We're using Redshift for EDW. We could go on and on about the tools that we're using. But really what we built was what we felt like was a really modern architecture for how we can bring in our data and really process it quickly and be able to present those predictions and those analytics back to our clients. So it's a modern service architecture. So we've built standalone, highly scalable microservices that handle and process much of this data with everything underlined or with an underlayment of that managed Kafka service from a data platform perspective. We do use a couple open source tools. We use Mirth as our kind of data integration engine. We're using Okta for our identity access management, which have been great solutions for us. But really what we found along the way, and we highlighted some of these areas, was as we migrated from our old platform to our new platform, we had to really think about security quite differently.
Right.
So in our legacy platform, we were all about endpoint management. That's kind of all that not all that we worried about, but that was what we primarily worried about, right? Vulnerabilities and endpoint management. As we came into our new environment, we knew that we had to think much more holistically and really partner with Trend to bring a lot of additional tools to the marketplace. Probably the most exciting thing that we've brought forward in the last couple months was the container security solution, which has been hugely valuable to us to help us ensure that as our containers scale up and scale down, that they're highly secure and that we're taking care of our clients' data. And so that's been of a huge value to us.
Yeah, it's amazing to hear. Our mission really is to help our customers innovate and adopt new technology and move fast. And really, it is our goal so that we're there first, right? We have that protection so that when you start using containers, we're ready to protect you, right? We keep you safe and help you stay secure. I love this quote here. This is from Dr. Andrew Adams, and working at a healthcare company, it could be confusing. He's not a medical doctor, despite the picture we put up there next to his quote here. But he's a doctor in cybersecurity. So actually, it probably makes this quote a bit more relevant. If your GP was telling you about Trend Micro, you might want to have a different GP. But Dr. Andrew Adams, he's a really smart guy. And what I like about this is he kind of calls out two different concepts, right? There's looking at your attack surface. And we saw the architecture diagram there with the Trend Micro icons. Love seeing us protecting that architecture. And it's interesting because we're looking at two things, right? The attack surface, right? What is there? How is it configured? How is it set up? But we're also looking at what's happening. Just like you said, with you processing HL7 messages in real time, we're processing telemetry from all these security sensors in real time. And those two big concepts really complement each other well. We call them attack surface risk management, and then that telemetry is kind of a detection and response. We call it XDR, X for kind of everything. Because we've gone through a journey ourselves. Over the past 10 years, we've moved from lots of separate security tools to really a combined platform that embodies these two big concepts. We've got our attack surface risk management that's looking not just on your cloud resources and your containers and that side of things, but also the rest of your enterprise resources, so that every bit of information, every bit of configuration in your organization, we're looking at all of that from a security perspective. And then that XDR, pulling in all that telemetry from your cloud, from your containers, but also from your endpoints, from every sensor in our system, so that we can bring in that technology to protect you everywhere you are. And like you, we've been a leader in AI. We've been using AI for years, like you initially for prediction classification, but also now in some of this newer technology. So we take our threat intelligence and we merge that together with what we know about your environment. And then we can actually use AI to think like an attacker, leverage that best of breed threat intelligence to try to predict where an attacker might go after that sensitive health data. How are they going to get through? What attack path are they going to use? So that then we can prioritize and tell you where to look to put your security effort where it matters most. This lets us help our customers move fast, which I love. It's our goal to help accelerate our customers. And we do that with technology, with AI, but also with our people. We've got professional services so that we can help you get set up. We've got managed XDR so that, you mentioned healthcare resources, staffing is a challenge, so is security staffing, right? We want to extend your team.
You're absolutely right. If I could interrupt for 1 second, XDR has been a huge value add for my team. We still have a relatively small cybersecurity team. And so our ability to partner with a best-of-breed vendor that can wrap us in these services, that can help us provide 24/7 monitoring, threat response, risk mitigation. It's really allowed me as a CTO to be able to scale my security operations without, as much as I would love to hire a bunch of additional PhDs in cybersecurity, those are really hard to find, right? And so it allows us to really extend that security for our clients with 24/7 threat response.
That's right, and we can do a lot of the heavy lifting, right? If we get paged on the weekend instead of you, and then we can just escalate what's important. And if the worst should happen, incident response, if you do have an incident, we're there to actually come and help you respond to that incident so that you can get back to your business faster, so that we don't slow down the creativity and the, I think, really groundbreaking technology that you're working on. We also make it easier all the way back to the maybe less exciting purchasing and procurement process. We're here at AWS reInvent, so of course we're talking about Marketplace. You can buy everything in Vision One on Marketplace, either by consumption or all the normal purchasing agreements, but you can do it right through Marketplace. And if you are going through a transition, like Xsolis, from one type of technology moving over to containers, we've also got a credit-based procurement system. So you can buy the technology you need today for your existing system, and as you adopt new technologies, you can just move those credits over to use the new technologies in our Vision One platform. We're trying to make this easier for our customers. So you mentioned the container security. You've mentioned what you're working on. What's next from a security perspective for Xsolis?
Yeah, I wish that we had everything already solved, right? But the threat matrix evolves every day, and so we're constantly having to think about what's next and where we want to go. We are also, as part of our commitment to security to our clients, we are HITRUST certified, for example. So one of the things we're going to work on next year is both the right thing to do for our clients. It will also help us with our HITRUST recertification next year on version 11, and that's what we're going to implement Zero Trust.
Right.
Which is, it'll be a pretty big change for our organization. but we're really excited about that to be able to implement that next year to really just provide that next level of security. Again, not only in the cloud, but even within our enterprise network as well, which we're really excited about in 2025. We're going to continue to expand our container security as we continue to build out our platform. I mentioned the generative AI modules, but we're working on a couple other new products that we'll launch in 2025, all container-based, all need to be secured. So we'll continue to expand those security investments. And then we're also going to invest in some of the security for AI as well. So as I mentioned, we're using LLMs. We have a lot of predictive AI models out there. We want to make sure that those are highly secured for our clients as well. So those are certainly three areas that we're going to invest in already on our roadmap for 2025. Actually, some of those I believe have already even been purchased through Marketplace. And so we're ready to launch those initiatives right after the first of the year.
Awesome, awesome.
And then additionally, we'll have one other kind of continual investment, because as much as we've really tried to, and we have successfully kind of really streamlined our vendor base, and gotten very much closer to that single pane of glass, there is still additional information that we need to bring in from whether it's static source code analysis or other tooling that are kind of outside of Vision One's purview, perhaps. And so we are going to continue to invest in Amazon Security Lake. We're already a very large Security Lake customer. Have done some really innovative things, even some items that we've shared back with Amazon, some ways that we're implementing it. And so we're going to continue to invest in that in 2025 as well.
Excellent, excellent. Zach, I know I keep saying this, but this is such an amazing story. I love seeing these real-world outcomes, and it makes me proud to be a trender, to be able to support companies like yours. It's just so impressive. And if any of you want to learn more, we've got a full case study on this story, our partnership with Xsolis. You can scan this link, which will take you right to the case study to find out more. So let's recap. Where have we gone? What have we gone through? I think this partnership is very powerful. It's a powerful concept, and it's what we want at Trend to do with all of our customers. So when you think about picking a security vendor, when you think about who you're going to work with to secure your environment, I think you talked about it earlier, that trust is very important. You need to think that you want this information together. You want to be able to bring your security information together. So make sure you've got a platform that brings your entire security needs into one place, that single pane of glass that you mentioned there. And find a partner that you trust to work with, someone who's going to invest deeply to help you move fast. And of course, so that we can focus on the security to secure your mission. And we talked about that attack surface risk management. I think it's important to realize that you're always managing risk. Businesses manage risk, health risk, and cybersecurity risk is business risk. So when you think about a partnership, make sure you're thinking about somebody who understands that the platform supports managing risk, identifying where there are weaknesses, and helping you prioritize so that you can fix it effectively. If you want to learn more about the platform, I know it's Thursday afternoon, but at our booth, we are running competitions every half hour, and we are giving away drones. There are still drones left. So if you're interested in actually trying our Vision One platform, getting your hands on, actually seeing how it works, and if you think you're good enough, you could win this drone. We're going after, and we're going to try to beat everyone and nail this drone competition here. And with that, thank you very much. Thank you, Zach, for joining us.
Thank you, Mike.
Thank you.